This is a channel conversation with the angels about the structure of what we would call evil on the planet, as well as some more information about some of the coming events related to our ascension. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. And for those of you who are new here, my name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm, and I receive those messages and share them here with you guys on YouTube. And today's message is there is some heavier stuff in this one, so please do take your own discernment and make sure that this is going to be of service for you in terms of where you are right now and how you're feeling. They do go into the way that energy is structured, what we would call the darkness or evil. There's a lot of ways we talk about it, and the angels go into quite a bit of depth in explaining not only how it's structured, how it works, but also how it's of service. And they also go into, because I kept pestering them, they go into a little bit more detail about what's coming up in 2022. You can tell in the message as I'm going that they're talking away and I'm sort of in there. I can't ever track what they're saying, but I keep thinking, are you answering my question? I led off with the question of, can you tell us what's happening in 2022? But they had their own agenda, so they gave us this whole bit of information about what's coming, or about the energy I was talking about the structure of what we would call evil. So anyways, I hope you enjoy the message. If you would like to join me live next time, you can join me in my Facebook group, which is called Spirit Means Business. So thanks so much for liking and subscribing to the video, and enjoy the message. So the first part of this message is about the structure of what we would call evil on the planet. And I think it's incredibly helpful to understand this because it is a big part of what's going on with this ascension. So I think it is, understanding this is helping us to understand sort of the bigger picture, the angelic perspective of what's happening over the next several years. Okay, they say, it will be surfacing, a vibration cleansing. We wish to bring you fully into breach, to help you understand where we begin with our process of elimination of that which does not serve. We've housed for some time the frequency of that which dawns to begin itself within this frame, that continues not into the spiritual path, that wishes to belong to this room alone and will not accelerate into the new. So there's something meaty here. They're talking about souls or beings that never cross over. So when they say here that we've housed the frequency of that which dawns to begin itself within this frame. So in other words, beings or souls that when they die choose not or do not cross over, but instead re-embody here on the earth plane. It's like they jump into another body. So they never cross over. So they never face the music. Like every time we cross over, we go over on the other side and we have our life review and we learn from what we've done and we face the music, right? And that is where we decide whether or not we want to, create more baggage for ourselves and give ourselves more karma. If we judge ourselves, we feel bad about stuff, whatever happens, we try to learn from what we've done in the previous life. But they don't do that. They stay on the earth, and they just, when they die, they try to just jump into another body. So that is what they're talking about here. And this is the discussion of the structure of evil. So, so the frequency of that which dawns to begin itself within this frame, that continues not into the spiritual path, so they don't cross over, that which wishes to belong to this room alone and will not accelerate into the new. So that's what they're talking about, is those particular souls who are on that path. And you're saying compassionate refer to those who do not cross over as lost souls. Yes. I think that's beautiful. And because they're all, part of God. They're all going to eventually, fingers crossed, right, make their way back and join us again. So next paragraph. We wish to bring your awareness to this, that there have been entities or beings, right, within this existence who have somehow found themselves in one way or another to be bewitched and assembled into pyramid form of transference of energy from themselves to another. This darkness within the frame of this existence, they transferred their power to one they know, and then bring into their path those who have what they desire to achieve their own wealth of being. And they draw upon they whom assemble beneath them. So they're describing here a pyramid structure of energy where they align and give their power to someone above them, and or maybe not all their power, but they give some of their power to someone above them. And the structure, my understanding of this structure is that, say that you have a group that a person belongs to, and within this group, everybody gives a piece of their energy or some of their energy to the person above them, and then inside the group, they share whatever is left among the whole. And by doing this, they actually have way more power than they normally would by themselves, but not nearly as much as they would if they followed the path of ascension that we are on, trying to get closer and closer to source, right? Getting closer and closer to source is the hard way, but it is the way that gets you in the long run where you really want to be. And this is sort of a cheat, it's sort of a shortcut, right? A way to get access to stuff, access to things that you wouldn't normally get unless you were willing to kind of face the music and go and clear your junk and get closer and closer to God, right? So that's what they're describing, is this pyramid structure where there's a person, and there's a group beneath them, and then a group beneath them. So think of like all of the what do they call those marketing structures? These sort of pyramid schemes or pyramid marketing structures. It's like that, but spiritually is what they're talking about. So this is the structure of what we think of as evil on the planet, how it is structured. So they go on to say this construction of energy transference does occur now in this present space. It is a possession of one to another, beings interconnected to the drawing of energy upward to one whose power must survey them all. And he has drawn them into himself to begin his own becoming of something everlasting he should wish for himself. But this is not possible. So this is hard for me to, it's hard for me to really let this in personally. And I know they're saying it, and I know it's true. Yeah, multi-level marketing, that's exactly it. Thank you. But it is, I know it's hard. It's hard. I don't know. I guess I have such a faith in the goodness of people that it's hard for me to imagine this, but it explains a lot. It really does explain a lot. But they're saying that this construction, this pyramid construction that occurs, right, it's happening now, and it is sort of a possession, right, of the energy. You're taking energy from the person below, beings interconnected, right, drawing energy upward to one. So there's, at the top of this pyramid, there's going to be, if it's a pyramid, there's somebody at the top. They're saying this person who's at the top has drawn them into himself to begin his own becoming. So he wants to become something, as they describe it, something everlasting he should wish for himself. So he is in a process of trying to collect more and more and more energy, more and more power to himself, this one person at the top. And they say, but this is not possible. Okay. They go on to say, we should speak to yourselves. This cannot begin while within the frame of God's mind. His orchestration of these energies unfurling one upon another to bring within him all he requires, this cannot surpass the mind of God. It cannot bring himself into parity with what is being and becoming all things. The one surpassing all is now upon us and sharing his force of being, his life-giving effervescence. We all absorb and take into our hearts to become what we may with his guidance, to aspire to higher realms, to make ourselves light. So this, I think, this paragraph, I love this paragraph, because they're basically saying that it's this idea that this person who's at the top of the pyramid, that this construction of these pyramids of energy could ever surpass God, can't happen. And the reason they say it can't happen is because we exist within the mind of God, that it is like we are a construct. Even the darkness is part of God. And something that's a part of you can't take over the whole. In other words, your arm, you may work your arm out as hard as you can. It's never going to become the whole body. It's never going to take over the being, right? And that's what they're saying, is that this energy exists within God. So how can it become greater than God? How can it be bigger than the thing that it is a component of? Right? It doesn't make any sense. So I love the way they present that. It isn't about a fight between one and the other, like somebody has to overcome. No, it's just like physics. It's like not even possible. So I love that. I love the way they say it is just so clear and so beautiful. And they say that the one surpassing all, that they describe God as the being and becoming of all things is what source is what God is. So anyway, so I love that. So they say, it's not even possible. It's not even an argument, not even a war or a battle. It's like, can't even happen. So I love that. All right, going on, they say, on the earth realm, you must achieve your correction of comprehension, a greater knowledge of what you are, a shifting in perspective which allows yourselves to understand that from which you're drawn from, or you draw from. The one who is achieving his eminence through your graduating into him, not becoming, claiming less than what you are for his power to succeed. We are bringing you now to the knowledge of his presence. This one who would vilify ourselves, make ourselves unknown to you. This one who would occupy your hearts with his own heartbeat and make himself known as occupier of his lordship. We say this has been an undercurrent for some time of events passing. So really they're trying to help us understand that this is out there, that it may not be a battle in the big picture, but it is a battle that we it's definitely a friction that we are experiencing right now. And I think it's showing up in all different types of ways in our society and in our world. That and they go on to say, so and that's I think the reason where, even though I was asking, tell me specific issues, they're like, nope, we got to talk about this right now. So they go on to say, there is aspiring within the fold of this envelope which encloses you now. There is aspiring by himself to achieve more, to be more within this frame, to achieve all that has heretofore been withheld, to make you all a part of his assemblage. But we will not permit that. So that is why they're talking about this now, that part of this ascension, as we are going through this, what has been described as a constriction, as we're trying to move into 5D, and we're going through this process of awakening, like this is not good news for these pyramid structures of energy and the people who are a part of it. That because they cannot move into that 5D. So they're trying. Right now, right now, everything is heightened. Everything is like, and I know a lot of people who've been experiencing this, that sort of dark energy is super activated right now. And they're kind of making that, okay, like it's now or never time. They're going to try to reach as far as they can and grab as many of us as they can and try to make themselves, make it not happen. They're going to try to make it not happen, make our ascension not happen. So, but the angels are saying, we will not permit that. So it's nothing here to cause us fear. They want us to be aware, So, okay, they go on to say, it has been powerful in your realm to have his presence. His knowledge and understanding of yourselves does permit him to access your beings in ways that transform and cajole and heal your hearts unwittingly. Review must confront yourselves in his reflection. You must survey your own being in the temptation he emits. You must face and frustrate your being and learn and live within these powerful energies of contrast which he creates. You have done this and survived well to learn more about yourselves. You have done what he would wish not. You have accomplished your own becoming and made more of your awareness for the blooming. So this is the beautiful part, right? This is the part where they say, yeah, it wasn't like this was some thing that was like sneaking around and they weren't aware of it. It was this big battle between, the angels and the dark side. And they're saying, no, they knew about it the whole time. And they let it happen because while he was out there stirring up trouble and trying to, pull us all off course, that has actually provided the contrast and provided the friction that we needed to grow. They're saying here that when we cross over, they say review, like our life review, must confront yourselves in his reflection. So where did we succumb? Where did we find ourselves tempted? And this energy, this dark energy moves, it's really all about addiction. That's the lure. And it can be addiction to anything. It could be addiction to power, could be food, drugs, alcohol, anything. Like addiction to people, right? It can be any kind of addiction. And that is that energy, that lull, that they draw them in. Because it's like, why do we do things that are not in our own best interest? Addiction, right? Addiction is what makes us behave against our own best interest. So that's the energy that they're yielding. But so as we cross over and we see ourselves in the reflection of this energy, that's where we look and say, oh gosh, I could have done that differently, or could have done that. Once we're freed of that energy, the pull of it, then you can really see yourself and see, okay, where did I fall down? What could I have done better? How did I learn? How did it affect me? So that's the benefit. And you're saying the birthing process. Do you mean the birthing process? So could you clarify? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Could you maybe, put a little bit more so I understand what you're asking? Thanks. Okay. So, all right. So going on, they say, and he's basically saying that we've used these energies incredibly well as part of our Earth School experience, that it's been beneficial to us overall, and that's why it's been allowed to stay. They go on to say, we see now your arrival on this plane to aid another, to become more yourself, but primarily to have grown the human species, to make you all transported into the next beyond. This is arriving now. We come to herald your transition, to make you feel what comes, acknowledge your presence within the new realm of awareness. So they're saying that why did we all come to the planet in the first place? Like, yes, there was the goal of to help each other, right, to be of service, and there was also the goal to help ourselves. But they said, but above all that, there was to have grown the human species, to evolve humanity. That's been like, okay, that's the bigger thing that all of us are a part of. And they're saying this is arriving now, that what we've all been working for all this time, like now, like this is go time. We're doing it, right? We are all evolving. And they're saying you're here to acknowledge it, to acknowledge our presence as we're moving into this new realm of awareness. Okay, next paragraph. They say, you will find this passing, this trajectory unfolds with great difficulty, but there must be a transference of energy that occurs. There must occupy within this time a field of convergence in which all things that do not make the transfer cannot survive and must not be allowed. The things which would draw you down cannot thrive any longer. We take you from here, from this point of view of tolerance of all things, where all things have been allowed to prosper, where all energies were like and unlike permitted. No longer is this allowed in this constriction of possibility. This will make some suffer in the interim. There is a letting go and releasing which must occur. All will feel the pull of this. So this is talking about why this process of ascension can be difficult. And think about like what I was saying about the addiction, about this energy moves through addiction. And there are so many things we're addicted to. And it could even be our sense of safety, right? Or it could be chocolate. Like, what if you have to give up chocolate or coffee, anything, right? And they're saying that and letting go of that can be difficult, can be hard. So we may all have threads of this to varying degrees working through our lives and creating a space where we're not truly free. And they're saying that we have gone through this period where all types of energies have been allowed, that we as humans have been super tolerant, but also the angels and the Earth School has been super tolerant of all different types of energies because it was part of creating friction and creating conflict so that we could grow. And they're saying not any longer. They've been telling us for a long time that we weren't going to have karma in the same way anymore. And I think this is part of it. So we're not going to have karma. We're not going to have this kind of friction or this pull to addiction any longer, which is like, thank you, right? Thank you so much. So that is awesome news, like amazing news. And you're saying addiction, knowing something is not for our highest good and we still partake in it. Yes. Oh my gosh. That's it. Yeah, that's exactly. It's such a good way of saying it. So, okay, so they're saying, yeah, this is no longer allowed in this constriction of possibility. So we've been in a period where all things are possible, and we're moving into a space where not all things are possible any longer. We're not that these sort of things that are genuinely bad for us are not possible any longer. And that sounds great, right? Like, yes, it's been an amazing journey. We've grown so much, and the Earth School has been like, I mean, I've heard the best school in the universe, right? That you grow more here than anywhere. But yay, yay, like yay to let go of that. That's been hard. It's been hard. So that is good news. Okay, but they say that a letting go and releasing must occur. And they've been telling us for a while that we need to go through this process of releasing what we're attached to and opening up to what we don't know. And that we all will feel the pull of this. What do we need to let go of? So, okay, next paragraph. The nation, so here they get back to this whole time I'm in there, like I'm rattling around as they're talking and I'm channeling and I'm like, are you talking about it? Are you talking? Because I asked the question, what about the other nations? What's going to happen in the world? I'm in there going, wait, are you talking about what I asked you? So here they're finally answering that. This whole time they're talking, they're like, just be quiet, let us talk. So, okay.
So they say, the nations of which you spoke, the difficulties they will have will differ from one from another. The empowering of some, the disempowering of another. There will be transfers of power brokered. There will be energies of conflict rising. There will be forcible entry by some upon another nation, and this will occur and constrict some more. Yes, constriction abounds of all types. There will not be foodstuffs available for many. So here we're getting into some more of the very specific things about what we can expect in the coming year. So here they're talking about political stuff, this previous paragraph. They're talking about how that it's going to differ, like the experience is going to be really different from one part of the country or part of the world from another. So I specifically asked about what's happening outside of the U.S. Really different from one to another. There's going to be like empowering for some countries, disempowering for others. Transfers of power, so major shifting in like sort of the geopolitical scene. Energies of conflict rising, so they were talking about war. Forcible entry by some upon another nation, so some nations taking over other nations, and this will occur and constrict some more. Yes, constriction abounds of all types. They go on to say, okay, there will not be foodstuffs available for many, for times of famine are ahead in this plane of existence. Times of famine and constriction, release of what was not happening within the frame of new beginnings. There is a release of all things, of all existence, of all awareness, a release of all things that must pass, a willingness to be within the frame of not knowing, of opening the self to what is beyond, stepping into and renewing. So here, sometimes the angels are talking about things in a really concrete way, and sometimes they're being more metaphorical. And I believe here, when they say a release of all things, a release of all existence, all awareness, I believe that that is really speaking to our state of mind, to this idea that humans are creatures of habit. We're creatures where we seek comfort. And I think that we're moving into a space where we're not going to have a lot of habit or a lot of comfort. Things are going to be really different and really uncertain. And so it is that idea of really setting your mind to say, okay, like the existence as I've known it, my awareness as I've known it, let me just open up and let myself perceive things as if I was new, brand new. Like the way you are when you go to a new country you've never been before that is really different from your own. And how, like when you're in that state of mind, by the way, everything is fun, right? I remember I lived in France when I was in college. Studied abroad, and going to the grocery store was an adventure because I got to do it in another language. You know, everything was different, and that's, I think, the state of mind that we are trying to aspire to. So I think when they're saying here that releasing all existence, everything, all our awareness, trying to really open up. And yes, there's going to be a lot of change, an actual concrete change in our lives, but there's also this mental shift we're trying to make. And you're saying release of our own desire for knowing, control, drama. Oh my gosh, yes, release our own desire for knowing and control. And how, I know it's hard. Like I know that can be really hard. And it is such a lesson for myself. And even in this channel message, here's a perfect example of the whole time I'm going like, are you answering my question? And they're talking about something much deeper and more meaningful, right? Like the conversation they were having, like I should have just gotten out of the way and let them talk. I am glad they answered this other stuff too, but it is about allowing, about just letting it happen, letting it be. And you're saying, isn't balance the goal? So to enjoy a cup of coffee in the morning is addictive behavior. To hold back on innocent enjoyments and giving in the energy, labeling it bad, tips this balance. Clarity, please. There is absolutely nothing wrong. And as a matter of fact, anything that brings you joy is something to pursue. Like the angels, again and again, like we are here for ourselves, for our own upliftment, and we are meant to enjoy the process. So I only mention coffee as the idea of where is it that you might feel that you are not okay without coffee? Like having a cup of coffee, it's something that you just have and you're like, oh, this is beautiful. I love this experience. I love the way I feel in the morning as I sit and look at the, sunrise or whatever it is. That's beautiful. But when it gets to that place where it's like, oh my gosh, if I don't have my coffee, I'm going to have a bad day. That's what we want to release. So I hope that helps to clarify. And that's a minor place where you might feel some little tiny bit of addiction to coffee. And so that's the difference. Like anything that brings you joy, that genuinely comes from a place of joy, is a good thing. Anything, when it tips the balance into something where you feel like you're not okay without it, that's not joy. That is, I need it, right? That's need. And we want to try as much as we can to identify those places in our lives. It doesn't mean you have to give up coffee. It means maybe you say, getting yourself into a place where you aren't physically addicted, maybe where you change, like maybe you have coffee this day and you have tea the next day, whatever, right? Mixing it up so you don't feel like you have to have it, that you have to. But there's nothing wrong. I have a cup of coffee in the morning. I do every day, and I like it. It's nice. So yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to take away your coffee. Shift to desire versus need. Yes, exactly. Okay. So they go on and say, where are we now? So let me just a second here. I lost my place. Yeah. Okay. Allowing this transfer. Okay. So yes, stepping into, there will not be foodstuffs. Here we are. Okay. I told you there will not be foodstuffs available for many, for times of famine are coming. There will be a release of all things. That was the last paragraph. Allowing this transfer of objective, a transfer of consciousness is required, and you will arrive there as one whole. And this is interesting. Unity, profound within yourselves, will transfer you one. You will make this move. Alignment comes, but not yet. Be ready. But there must constriction be allowed. It must follow that you will then inure yourselves to the anxieties and stresses of what must unfold. There have been seen some passings of difficulty, and you will feel these. So interestingly, there has been a lot of discussion about how does the awakening happen? Does it happen there's been biblical stuff where it's like, someone's driving down a family in a car and all of a sudden like one person disappears out of the car and like they've moved on and nobody else has. And they're not saying that. They're saying we're moving over as one, that humanity is trying to evolve. This is about humanity evolving. And that is something that I believe is going to happen over a long period of time, that it isn't going to be something that, so in our lives, that I think this new level of awareness is going to be available to us. And my understanding is that not everybody may choose that to begin with. And that just because someone doesn't choose to move into this new awareness, it doesn't mean that they're going to like croak on the spot. My understanding is that there will be some lives lost in the process of this experience as the earth is healing, that's going to happen, and that's hard. But that anybody who crosses over in this period is going to be held very protectively by the angels and helped through to the other side and help to continue their journey in the way that they choose. But those who stay, that not everybody who stays may have bought into this idea of moving on. They may say that staying in a karmic construct is going to be better for them. And they may be permitted to live out their lives on this plane. And then just when they reincarnate, they don't reincarnate here. Does that make sense? So this process of humanity evolving, they're saying that we're moving over as one, all of us. And the process is there and the opening is there. But our process of stepping into that, my understanding, is something that it isn't necessarily going to happen in an instant. That it is that there may be an opening that happens in an instant, but then our evolving into it is something that will occur gradually. So hopefully that makes sense. And that's my understanding of it right now, kind of piecing together the various things that they've said. But I think what's important here is they're saying that it's really about unity, and that this next level of awareness is about unity. It's about our collective consciousness. And that makes sense with everything they've said about empathy, about how the thing I think they've talked about the most whenever we start talking about what is it to be in 5D is empathy. It's about a greater feeling and connection to one another. And how so many of you are deeply empathic, and just imagine the world if everybody felt that way, if everybody was attuned to how other people feel. Totally change things, right? And that's where we're headed, and that's a greater step towards this idea of unity and oneness. So, okay. They go on to say, but be prepared to release what you offer at present as mementos of life, prepared to release that which you claim, to which art and anger you have held. We are seeing this new time unfolding as one of victory for yourselves as beings, one of great everlasting hope for the trilogy of creation you embody. We see you as God's light personified in human flesh, and you are illuminated from within by his love. Love that. I totally love that. So this is really like, and I know it's so hard. Like there's a lot of fear that can rise when we talk about things that we're going to leave behind or things that might change. And they are saying that we might need to release what we would think of right now as important, or the mementos of life. Prepare to release what you claim, to which art and anger you have held. The things that we have said that I gotta have this is what really matters to me. There may be things that we lose. There may be things that it may be that a person's house floods and they lose all their family photos. And yes, that's really sad. But then they're saying that hey, this is a time of victory for humanity, that where we're headed is so amazing, and we will get through it, that we will get through it. And they say at the end of the day, that here they say, one of great everlasting hope for the trilogy of creation you embody. So you guys know, I was not raised with any kind of religious upbringing, but more and more and more, the stuff that I hear about, or the stuff I've been told that are in the Bible and in other religious texts, come up in the channeling and come up in what happens in sessions. And here they said that you are the trilogy of creation you embody. And my understanding is that includes the Holy Spirit. That is the trilogy that you hear about. And that we embody this. And this has come into some of my most recent sessions in an incredibly powerful way. So we see you as God's light personified in human flesh. You are illuminated from within by his love. And this is I just feel like there's so much weight to this. There's so much importance to this. I just wanted to kind of slow down there and let that be felt. So we go on to say, we see now coming on this plane the types of events you wish to know. What will come? What will happen? This is me. What will come? What will happen? This is me saying, are you guys talking about it? And here they say, we will answer this to some part. We say you are aware of the inelegance of disaster, of how it unfolds with readiness and consumes what lay in its path. It has not the radar of understanding, of knowing who is to be spared and who not. It chooses only its own expression of happening and consumes what lay before. And you are there worried. And we say, fear not, dears. So here they're saying, we are thinking about all this because we're aware, when a tsunami comes, when a wave comes, it doesn't think. It doesn't say, oh, guess what? You're enlightened. I'm not going to wash you away. It just goes. It goes where it goes. And they are saying, we are aware of this, and it makes us fearful. And that's what they're talking about in this paragraph. They're saying, you are aware, you've seen how disasters work. Tornadoes strike where they strike. They go where they go. And we are looking at this and going, holy moly, how am I going to be okay if there's all this craziness going to happen? And they're saying, and you are there worried. And we say, fear not, dears. And they go on to say, there are happenings extreme to be found in these years coming, which you will survive. Your way forward will be made clear to your own selves. Your own hearts are true, and their recognition of what will come, your own hearts lead you, dears. Of this we are assured. So I think, as they're talking here, because they're talking before about this transfer of consciousness that's happening, I think that we may have more access to our own internal wisdom, to the wisdom of our higher selves, to our connection, to our guides. We may have more access to that as this is all unfolding. And that will allow us to be more led than we are used to being. That our guidance will be more clear. The more that we release, the more that we are open, the more we will hear, and we will know what to do. And I think that's what they're saying here. And I think that's why they're trying to reassure us and saying, they say, fear not. They keep telling us, fear not. Why? Because they say, of this we are assured, right? Your own hearts lead you, dears, so that we will each be getting our own guidance. And I think this comes in, just think in the last year or two, in the last 5 years, how much opening there has been around you, in the communities around you, the people around you, even in the world. I just saw in the regular old newspaper the other day was a whole article on tarot, right? And talking about the resurgence or this amazing increase in the popularity of tarot. And think about meditation. That would have been a couple years back, that would have been kooky. And now it's common for people to talk about energy. It's happening all around us. And think about for yourself how much more connected you are individually. So, and if we think of this as time isn't passing and this process isn't happening Like if it took us 100 years to get to the place where we are now, and then in the last 5 years, it's getting faster and faster and faster is my point. So it is perfectly rational to expect that the next years, our awareness is going to move even faster than it has before. So that's the assurance that they're giving us. And I can see why. I can see how that makes sense. Hopefully you guys can too. Hopefully that is reassuring for you. And you're saying, what will happen to our precious animals? They didn't address specifically animals. They didn't talk about that. And I know that they're like, in terms of disasters happening, disasters do affect everyone. Like they go like fires and things like that. Like it's true. They go everywhere. But I think in the same way that if you have animals that you're protecting, I think the same message applies, that your heart will be there to guide you and to guide you, to tell you what to do. So they go on to say, but you must know these times unfolding are difficult for many. There will be famine, as we have said. There will be disruption of political form. There will be many who intrude upon another space of being. Homes may flood, possessions washed away. This can happen. There will be water everywhere, floods of torrent yet to come, floods of waves, as we have shown, and yes, of rivers full, and lives turned upside down and happening not as shown to themselves and their own imaginings. Lives lived in disarray and turmoil. And this we fear will alter not their course, the tempests as they come. It will flow, as has been told, their own direction unfolding before them. So before you get depressed about that, they do go on to say, here's what they want us to do. So they are saying, it's hard stuff. Lots of flooding, lots of disruption. Yes, we do. And they want us to know this so that we can do what we can to prepare. But they talk about that here. So let me go on to read on. They say, we say the sequence you desire to understand. So this is the question I was asking. It's like, how does this unfold? They say the sequence you desire to understand. There is, yes, the becoming, the torrent of understanding that all has been lost. This economy will shut down, will stop, will employ you no more. There will be happening some constriction of the banks, as we have foretold. Yes, you will find yourselves without transfer payment, without ways of bringing yourselves what you need or is required. And I don't know, so this here they're talking about in the U.S. specifically, they're talking about a economic crisis and the banks closing for some period of time. And they've been talking about this for a while. And this could happen in this year where we're having our Pluto return and in the U.S. So this could definitely happen. And they're saying that it doesn't mean that we won't get our money back. As in a previous channeling that I think from a year ago, I think they said that we would get our money back. So, but it's just how long will it be closed for, and how do you prepare for that? And that's why they want us to know, right? They don't tell us any of this stuff about to cause us fear. They tell us so that we can do what we need to do to be prepared. So, So the major thing to take out of this is that they're saying that it's about the transferring payment. So when they say that you're no longer employed, it doesn't necessarily mean that you lose your job. And I mean, it may in some situations, I can't say, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. What they're really trying to say is that the money isn't able to be moved easily from one place to another. So like if your employer usually pays you, it's like, okay, well, what if they can't? How are you going to be okay during this gap period where money isn't transferring easily? And the answer to that, there's a bunch of answers to that, even if you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of cash available, right? It's like this is a period where we come together with neighbors and we help each other, right? We get what we need through trade and through help to help one another. But here they go on. They say, it is a time of difficulty and you must prepare. You must have yourselves ways and methods of preparation for being, ways of feeding and housing that will not require payment of any kind. Storage of foodstuffs is important, dears. Storage of self-preserving. What do you need? What do you require? Have this. Be prepared in this method, not too extreme. Have no more than you wish to consume yourselves and share with others, but no, not more than that. Do not take on the burden of too many things, of too much, for this will weigh you down and transfer your consciousness into fear and survival, and this we wish not. Only to have abundance of thought, abundance of plenty, and no more. Enough. So they're saying here, it really is like think about, for myself, I've been thinking like a 2-year horizon, and you don't have to go crazy. Like if you're on a tight budget, large bag of rice and large bag of beans, and calculate out like what you think you would need to keep you comfortable. And they've said before that it doesn't mean that there would be nothing available. It means that not everything would be available. So for someone like me being vegan, I have a very specific diet. I'm trying to look out, like I'm starting a garden, and they really do love that. If you have the ability to start a garden and to grow things, go for it, because you could not only help yourself, you could help others. So that is great. If you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of resources, what I would suggest is connecting with other people. Like in advance, start forming community of people who you can say, hey, if this stuff happens, how can we help each other? What can we do to help each other be all right? And so that's what I would look at, is starting to try to find your communities, and hopefully people around where you are, right? People that live near where you are that you can connect with and where you can help each other. Okay. So, and that's a big thing too, is looking at local solutions, trying to get local. So when you talk about your animals, like, can you make sure that you have sources of food for your animals that are local? Like, are there people who grow hay near you that so you don't have to go far away to get what you need? Imagine if the person who grows hay needs something that you need, right? Then you're going to be all right. But it's about thinking of this in advance, knowing this is a possibility, and thinking about what can you do? Trust that the resources that you have are the resources that you need, that your life was created on purpose, and that your life is the perfect vessel from which you are meant to create your solution. So don't look at your life and say, I don't have what I need. I am in trouble because I'm in a situation where look at me. I'm not in I'm living with family at the moment. My house is under construction, right? I don't even have heat at my house right now. And I know lots of people that are in transition housing, but their life will be the perfect container from which they will create their path through this. So trust that, and look at your life in a really deliberate way. Look at what are the resources that you do have. And those might be people resources, right? It might be resources of a totally different nature. And look at that very intentionally and say, well, I wonder why I have these resources. How am I meant to use these resources that I have? So, so try to think of it that way as much as you can. Come from a perspective of plenty as opposed to a perspective of lack. Even if you might feel like you're in a position where you would rather be able to just go buy a bunch of stuff. That might not be the right answer. So I hope that helps. Find your community. Yes. Yeah. Did they say about location? They do talk about that a little bit more here. So let's go into it. And by the way, Rebecca is with us today, and she was sharing some really awesome stuff with me about community, about people creating economy for themselves around barter and trade. And I know that it doesn't necessarily work for all things. If you're trying to buy a generator, like it's, how do you get a generator if you're, what I mean? That kind of thing. But it is an incredibly helpful way to shift your perspective. So maybe, I don't know, would you share that article you sent me, Rebecca, in the chat? That would be awesome, because people might be interested to read that. That would be really, really helpful. Thank you. So seeds, thanks. Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. So let's go on and see, and then prepare your mood to hear of great happenings without, of earthly struggles within your nation, here in the United States, as we have spoken, of earthly rift which transplants yourselves to one side or another, where you are moved to be and find the people who gently welcome you in and find yourselves at home. There is a shifting in the population which must occur, and this will travel fast, and you will find yourselves a new nation separating, finding yourselves. So, okay, so I've understood that we're going to be going through a kind of a revolution here in the United States, and that there is, and I have seen this energy coming up. When I look at it, I see the energy of the existing power structures is sort of like, you think of sort of like the East Coast, the government, that they are kind of in one spot, and then there's this energy that looks like a dust cloud that is it's really frothy, and it's full of energy, and it's moving up from the south and moving up across the Midwest. And so I've understood it as being sort of a political separation, but here they're talking about that it's somehow, that it could be some sort, I don't know if it's a physical separation, or it's a rift between. So I thought of it, I've been thinking of it as a like where we become two countries, or maybe more than two countries, which I think is possible. So anyway, so that is coming, and it looks like there is a willing moving, that people are willing to move from one side. So they're saying people are picking themselves and going to where people welcome you in and find yourselves at home. So there's a shifting of population. It's like people are moving houses from one place to another. And that's been happening already. Like if you look at the demographic trends in our country, that's already been happening, but it says this will travel fast. So this might be happening a lot more than it's been happening. And we will find ourselves a new nation separating, becoming, finding ourselves. So there's big changes in store for the United States, big changes. So, and then, and you shared, here's another article that you were talking about. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's going to be really helpful. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Perfect timing that we talked about that the other day. Thank you. Okay. So, all right. So going on, here we are. And this upheaval does employ the imaginings in other places and ignite the turmoil to begin. There in China, you have asked, because I specifically asked about China. They said there, because I had some other intuitive visions about China. They say, there in China you have asked, and yes, indeed, it is true. Your understanding complies with our observation. They will rise into the blank space you occupied as a nation and feel their way unencumbered to take on and overpower another, Taiwan. So this was something that because I was looking at what's going on with Russia right now in the Ukraine, and I was looking at what is more dangerous at the moment, that or China. And the stuff that was happening in the sea there in Taiwan and all of that. And I distinctly felt that what they're describing here, that China could move into, they're kind of sitting, waiting for the U.S. to lose its power in the world. And when the U.S. falls away, that creates a vacuum and China steps into it. And they say that... and that their first step, it sounds like, is that they try to overpower Taiwan. And so these are things that could happen, right? These are not, that everything is choice. We always have free will. Things could change, but this is what I understood. And then the angels are saying, yeah, this is what they are seeing as well. They go on to say, and this change and shift in the dynamics of global power will alter the canvas for some time. And they will empower themselves through the portals of transference, of making friends where none were previous, and using the alliance to make themselves larger still, to make themselves proud and becoming, to own the nation that they are spreading and invigorating with these moves. But they will arrive upon times of surrender and feel themselves broken apart and made to suffer, their own peoples left bereft of food and abundance, made to live and wander in search of what was taken from them, their own beings adrift. So, and this I think is the feeling I get about China is that they overstretch themselves, a lot, and that everything just kind of crumbles. And that could be wrong. That could be, like I said, there is so many steps, so many things that happen between here and there. And there's a lot of people involved, and people make choices and decisions. So that can change. But we were looking for some specifics, and there they gave us some specifics. So the bigger thing with all of this is to look at the energies. And the energies can manifest in a million different ways. And so I think I described in one of our previous Friday Lives how the angels see things and the possibilities and the potentials. So these are clearly possibilities that are out there that look likely. But whether it's China or another, it happens differently, the energies are what's really happening. And know that those energies can express in a variety of ways. It's sort of like the earth energy that's trying to come up. It could come up in a lot of different places, but here we are, Tonga, boom, right? Biggest explosion since Krakatoa, right? And it can come up anywhere. There it is. It's in Tonga. So it's an energy that has to be released. So you're saying, what about Europe? I believe Europe would be impacted. I think, and this is my understanding, but like I said, I don't have channeled message about this, but it could be a situation where China and Russia have been kind of buddy-buddy, and they could continue to be buddy-buddy, and that could end up impacting Europe. So I don't believe, because the U.S. is going to be sort of mired in its own muck, I don't think that this conflict is going to come over here. I think we're going to be dealing with our own problems. But I think it could affect Europe more. I think that so I think it's going to be a bit of a rough time. And I think the answer is to trust that what they're telling us here, to really look, rather than letting ourselves kind of get worried about the specifics, to remember what they're telling us is that we're going through this process of ascension, that we will be led, and that we will be led more than we have been in the past. That as we're going through this ascension process, we have increasing guidance. And the angels have even said that we will see them physically on this plane, that we were going to see angels on this plane. So our guidance is going to be coming in more strongly, and they said that they are assured that our hearts are going to lead us where we're meant to go. And trust the envelope of your own life. Trust what's around you. But they are urging us to take these preemptive steps, to start to kind of look at what your life is made up of. What do you have? Who are you in the world? Like, what services can you offer? What skills do you have? And then if you have the means to prepare and have some food set aside, that's a great idea. If you don't have the means, maybe you can grow some food. Or maybe you know somebody who has land and you can help them garden. Like, what can you do with what's around you? And look at that. So, anyway, so I hope this is interesting. What about Latin America? Yeah, I will have to do another channeling and try to ask. You can tell in this one, I kept asking them, like, what about other places in the world? They had a different message they wanted to share, which admittedly is probably more important in the bigger picture. But in terms of each of our individual lives, I know we want to know what's happening where I am. And I understand that completely. So I will continue to ask gently and let them know we still want to know. And hopefully they will. It's just, I trust them. I trust them to share what it is that we need to hear most. So the first half of this, where they talked about the structure of evil, is probably the more important message. So let's take that to heart and pay most attention there, and then take the rest in as like, okay, this is what I can do. This is how I can be, and how I can move through this. So, all right, you guys, this was a heavier message. I tried to give sort of a little red alert at the front, some heavier topics in this one, but I think necessary to hear. And remember that nothing is set in stone, because of the fact that, like I said, we are humans. We choose. I go back to what they said, that we are the embodiment, we're God in human form, right? The Trinity they talked about that lives within us, that we have so much effect on what happens in our world. So never discount that. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope this has been of service, and I will share more information as I get it. Sending you guys lots of love. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Hugs to you all, and I will see you next time. Thanks, you guys. Thank you.